But there's going to be a whole series on YouTube on the Boardman River, on the Ottaway, on the restoration project. We should be attending a meeting of the implementation team. Get to talk to the Army Corps of Engineers, also Michaels, which is the construction people that are doing the construction on this project. We will be trying to talk to some of the scientists as well involved with the fish passage project. Dams were built in the first place for the logging. If you missed this area was completely deforested back over 100 years ago. Captain Boardman, who the river's named after right now, it's a huge millions of white pine trees were logged. You can see the remnants. In fact, there's one of them on the far bank over here. And as part of that process of throwing the trees into the river, they created dams, and then electricity was discovered, so they became hydroelectric dams. And recently, due to change in regulations, those hydroelectric dams were no longer feasible to keep, which gave the opportunity to restore the river back to its original path, because when you dammed the river, they also changed the path of the river. And the piece that we're about to float through, we're going to be in the first few hundred people that have floated through this stretch of river. This is the original Relic channel. That if you watch this from earlier, and go back and watch, there's a great explanation all about the excavation of that original channel, using basically steel rods to find how deep it was between the valley walls. And when they hit the substrate at the bottom of gravel, logging it as gravel, and using GPS to then map out the different stretches of the river. And having done that, started to excavate the river and excavate it to the width it is. And they would find these stumps at the side, which would then identify the fact that they'd found the edge of the river, because they could see where these stumps were growing, would have originally been growing into the river. Someone just said many chartered fishing captains will not allow bananas on their boats.
Wasn't quite turned around facing me.
You guys good? Okay. I figured that between the two of you,
You're welcome, Hugo.
get her figured out. I mean, oh, totally.
She needed to be here, and I don't think she could do that. So have we been through the so-called back?
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah, well, she's got... I'm going to find a spot where she doesn't get wet feet.
It's already wet.
Where's he going?
I'll let you get in first.
You want me in first?
Yeah.
This is how Kevin doesn't fall in the river. Well,
Got change for a quarter?
so we're now going to actually go down the piece that we're talking about.
We've got some wood in front of us.
We have some wood in front of us.
Good save, guys.
Yeah, we nearly, I managed to get water in my boot then, and that shrieking noise was as we managed to tip the boat enough to get water in it. Thanks Sue. Stephanie says hi too. This is going to sound really funny on YouTube later on. People are going to be, what on earth's going on? But for anyone who's watching this on YouTube later on, what you're going to realise is this was a live stream first, so there's comments that we're replying to throughout. And for anyone just joining us and sharing this out, this is the Ottaway River, and we're about to, within about 500 feet or so,
Yeah, about.
we're going to be hitting the Relic channel, which was where the river was restored when they removed the Brown Bridge Dam and the impoundment was no longer there. And we're going to be some of the first 100 people that have floated this, I'd imagine. Not going to be that many people that have floated through here yet. I'd say water protection at its finest. No riot police in sight. It's quite ironic, the fact that, 100 or so years ago, they put dams on this river, they destroyed the environment for corporate gain, and now people get to spend millions in grants to put the river back to where it was originally. There's some irony in that. There's some lessons that we could do to learn from. Whether we will or not is a different story.
So the channel, when we dewatered the pond, actually went, first dewatered it, went through that gap right there to your left. This is the native channel we're going in right now.
So we're just hitting the native channel right now. And over to the left was where it originally kind of took itself when it first dewatered it. So some of these stumps we can see are the original stumps from like the 1900s. There's some strange guy on the bank signaling to us.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. No, there's one boat backward. Okay.
So we're starting to see some of these large wood projects coming up on us. Is this is what you've been put in place, Nate?
Yeah, these were put in place as soon as we exposed the Relic channel.
Okay.
To keep the channel from migrating into those sensitive banks, because they weren't vegetated yet.
And then where we look here, as we're coming past to the right here, we're actually going to see that the original river height would have been up at the top of that sediment. So that was the original bank. Wow.
That would have been the pre-dam removal height of the water.
Pre-dam removal height of the water. So we're looking at a good 8 feet higher?
Correct.
It's not too rough.
And all the sediment that was pulled out of the channel, the 260,000 cubic yards, was placed to your right.
So
right
this...
straight ahead of you.
Okay.
To the right. That was not a hill like that. It was actually level ground. And so all the material excavated was placed up country,
And
out of the floodplain.
Okay, so the excavated materials are placed up here. We're looking at this bank. You said how many tons?
260
260,000 cubic yards of sediment removed to create this channel, and this was only back in 2012.
Correct.
So what we're looking at here, this seed bank has repopulated itself pretty much naturally,
With a little bit of help.
with a little bit of assistance,
But
in 4.5 years.
Yep. In fact, the removal occurred in the fall, after the growing season, so it actually has had fewer growing seasons than you might expect. But the following spring, it erupted in vegetation. It was pretty amazing to see.
Yeah, it's quite incredible how nature takes care of itself when we leave it the hell alone.
Some of these stumps you'll see are burned, have char marks on them. When the dam was built, they cut every tree down in the impoundment, and then they burned over it to try and remove any remaining slash that might float down into the dam after it was constructed.
Wow. Yeah, we've got our own little guide.
As we come down through here, you'll see water seeping in from the banks, and that's what contributes to these cold water rivers being such high quality resources, is that steady flow of groundwater at a constant temperature. And it's usually in the 40s when it comes out of the ground.
That tipping of the canoe is just the cameraman changing position.
There's a spring coming right off the bottom of that log. And consequently, these rivers stay warmer in the winter because it has a constant flow of groundwater at 40-some degrees.
So it doesn't completely freeze over as much in the winter?
Yep.
Wow. So we could come back in like December time, and you could take us back down this in a different season?
Oh, absolutely. I personally paddle this river year-round. I've been here in snowstorms and etc. So
cool.
It's one way to get it to yourself. Now these logs and snags were in here. We didn't place those.
So they're what you're trying to replicate.
That's
with
what
your...
we're trying to replicate, yep.
This is such a beautiful river. And it's so clear.
Yeah. It rarely gets cloudy, only under the heaviest of rain events.
Someone's asking regarding the wildlife. Have you seen a lot of the wildlife come back because there's now the impoundment's gone?
It's interesting you say that question comes up because with the pond in place, it created somewhat of a barrier to wildlife moving east or north to south. And once the pond was gone, people reported seeing black bear and bobcat moving across the bottomlands, going east or north to south, or vice versa. So there are definitely those guys in here, and I've seen lots of deer crossing, lots of birds that favor river systems. Those are a constant. Spotted sandpiper that
just heard. Huh. Now, one thing I heard last night in the documentary, someone was talking about originally the migrating birds, ducks and wildfowl, would come through and they would land in great numbers on the Boardman Pond. Now that that's gone, does that really have an effect on the migratory birds, or are they not just going to land on the?
Well, as Frank pointed out in the movie, there are many lakes in the region, into the perhaps even the thousands. So there are plenty of places for any waterfowl that want to light.
Oh, this is one of the log jams you were talking up, coming up on the right-hand side, huh? Where the viewing boundary.
That's where the high rolling
was.
Yep. And in this area, I found 2 EVs, which are logging implements that were left behind by the loggers, and folks have found crosscut saws.
Wow. So what you're looking at straight ahead here, guys, up there, you see how there's a break in the trees and there's that viewing platform. So what they would do is they would stage logs at the top once they had been cut, and they would let them go from way up there, ripping down through all the foliage, destroying everything, till they landed in the river to float them off on down the river.
Generally that was done in the spring of the year when the flows were heaviest.
So they'd cut them in the winter and then let them go in the spring?
Yep. Logging in the winter was easier because the ground was frozen. You could skid the logs out easier. With the advent of mechanized logging, then that kind of turned the corner for that industry, and logging could occur year-round.
So all of this that we're looking at on the bank here, this is some of the attempt to create that habitat and those pools that would naturally form when a tree falls in. So everything you're looking at on screen right now is those log jams that were man-made, created deliberately, that had such tight regulations from the DEQ. So you were really looking for these to come out a lot further into the river.
Yeah.
Because right now they're almost like a bank support.
Correct. And those actually were more to protect the access road that's above us. But here we're looking at structures that were placed most recently to provide for scour habitat.
Okay, so this forms those. It changes the flow of the river right there for the habitat as well. So they have spawning grounds. Is that right?
That could be possible if there's a lot of sand in the system and the gravels are covered. That action exposes those gravels from underneath the sand.
What's that on the?
Yes, it is a spotted sandpiper.
So that you may have just seen flying was our spotted sandpiper that's been following us down here. And what you're looking at now, it's very hard to imagine, guys and girls, but all this vegetation on both up here on the left, if I do a 360, everything that you're looking at right now would have been up to the tree line. This would have been one great big impoundment. This would have been solid body of water right here. And it would have been, 10 feet above our head, 8 feet above our heads.
occasionally see eagles out here as well, various hawk species. So some of these logs appear like they're too far out of the water, but these structures are constructed so that they can accommodate varying depths of water. So as the water comes up, there will be material encountered by the water, and there will be a hydraulic shadow for fish to take cover behind, etc. And so there are times when more of this material will be underwater.
So for the height of the river right now, are we looking at kind of an average height right now, or is this kind of low? Or
This is about what's called base flow, which is the lowest or close to the lowest it might get in any given year. And this is pretty close. I think Frank checked the gauge before we got on the river today, and it was at about 105 cubic feet per second. And that is about base flow for this river. And if you can imagine, heavy equipment was used to install this. Big track hose or excavators with the bucket and the arm, and they were catted in here across the bottomlands, and they were the big hammer, I guess, that drove a lot of this material into the bank. And you can see that the ground recovers very rapidly from that. We did have some heavy flows, and you can see to the right here where there's sand deposited, and the river actually did get up that high fairly recently.
Wow.
You might be able to see it around the corner, but we had a tremendous snowpack, and then we wound up getting a bunch of rain on top of the snow, and the boardman was really cooking.
So that's a good 3 feet higher.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was up there.
Did you float it when it was that?
No, I have kids.
Yeah, so if you look on the right hand side here, you see where the sediment of that sand's been dragged up there. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I try to limit my chances of death to, oops, sorry.
Yeah, kids are important. How old are your kids?
I have a 12-year-old girl named Brooke, named after the brook trout. She has no E in her name, which confounds everybody and her. And then my son Max is 16, and they're both paddlers. They've been coming down through this section with their dad is probably more than anybody.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little section of river.
See, there's a lot of clay in the channel bottom where those light areas are. It's almost as stiff as bedrock, and it doesn't accumulate any vegetation or sand because it just slides right off. We'll get to some places up here where there's ledges of clay down there. I found so many ice spuds sticking straight up out of the bottom when this pond was dewatered from ice fishermen losing their ice spuds through the ice.
Huh. So are you going to be involved all the way through this project until, I believe, 2020, I think, is the fish passage is slated to be?
Yeah. I hope to be. pretty cool to be from this area. I grew up here. My parents are from here, and they grow up recreating on this river, and then coming to actually be able to work on it. It's pretty heady stuff.
And just for those people that are joining all the time, so just give them a brief introduction to who you are, Nate.
I'm Nate Winkler. I'm a biologist with the Conservation Resource Alliance, and we're a nonprofit outfit that has been contracted as the overall project manager for the Boardman River dam removal. And so we herd the cats, essentially. We take care of administrative details related to the river or to the dam project, and we assist in fundraising and technical expertise, and but yeah, that's it. That's us in a nutshell. The Grand Traverse Band has been a wonderful partner in this, and really we wouldn't be where we're at if it hadn't been for the efforts of the Grand Traverse Band, and they deserve a lot of credit for stepping up and kind of taking over where they really didn't have to, but they felt like it was important enough to do so. There are a lot of layers of responsibility that were above the band to manage these dams, and somehow it escaped them, and so the band was willing and able to take that on, for which I'm grateful.
Now, it's personally my experience just being here since March and seeing the stuff that they're involved with and working a lot with Desmond Berry, specifically around the Line 5, the Enbridge pipeline up in the Straits, seeing how involved they are with the Public Safety Advisory Board, the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board meetings, putting on their own symposiums of water protection, reaching out to government officials, not only of US government officials but also other tribal government officials, and just working so tirelessly to be a voice for nature, and the fact that they're so supported as well by their tribal council. The tribal council will pass resolutions to do things like shut down Pipeline 5, and will have the financial support to have budgets available to be able to it takes 160 people, roughly, I think it was about 160 people to the first Pipeline Safety Advisory Board meeting by renting out a couple of buses. And it's amazing when you get people involved and start talking to them about things, how connected everyone really is to nature, and they begin to realise it. It's just that I think a lot of mainstream media really don't ever show the other side to it. It's a very biased view. When people start to look into things, and it's amazing to see the different walks of life that can all come together and make a difference in so many different ways. And I mean, just to be part of this today as well, with the fact that you've got people from inner city schools that don't have a river that runs in their neighbourhood, people from Detroit here that are floating this river and understanding what it means to be on a river versus just see one.
Yeah. several occasions back there where I saw root wads and whole trees that were floated in upstream. So here's a clay ledge. If you look down, it's going to drop away.
Wow, yeah, you can see even through the camera here.
On the other side, unfortunately, is the opposite side I told you to look down. That's where the clay had calved and created a big scour pool.
Yeah, you can kind of tell from the different color. It's not as easy to see through the camera, but picks up some of it.
How's it going?
Good. We're just sliding through into first place here.
More time on the river is okay with me.
Yeah, that's beautiful, isn't it? Have you ever floated a river before like this yourself?
Floating?
Have you ever floated down the river like
Whitewater rafting, but not this river, no.
Yeah, and then you were in a lake, right? In a canoe?
There's some more
For whitewater
clay on
rafting?
this.
No, you were telling about that student.
I don't remember where we are for that. It wasn't like this. It was, the lake was wide open.
Right.
I have to look at my portfolio, my teacher portfolio, to see the name of the camp.
Do you mind pulling over at a spot so I can show you something?
I don't mind. No, we're happy to pull out the river. Is that cool stuff? Yeah,
It'll take 2 minutes.
that's
But
fine.
I think it's worth.
Are we looking at these banks on the left-hand
No.
side here that are they original?
Yeah, those are original.
So this is the height of the impoundment. As we're getting closer and closer to the dam, it got bigger and bigger.
Yeah, the water was actually probably another 6 or 10 feet above that.
Okay.
So we were approaching the deepest part of the impoundment.
So this is these banks you're looking at. The water would have been 6 to 10 feet above these.
Correct.
Wow. So you can see how much of a difference is, how much of water that was being impounded. I mean,
These are clay banks primarily. Got a little soil in there, but they were bare for some time. But you can see what's called equisetum or horsetail
that's horsetail? Okay.
growing, colonizing that face. This is a natural jam, which more closely mimics what we were trying to emulate. Minus the beer can and the flip flop.
Not a natural beer can and flip flop. Yeah, this is incredible to be able to float down this and see the years of hard work and what it's achieved and the difference.
And like Frank was pointing out, if people could just give it time, the starkness of the landscape immediately after the removal was pretty glaring. But people, I think, need to realize that recovery takes time in any instance. Or you just give it a growing season, it'll pop right back.
Yeah, I mean, because when this was done, this was I saw pictures. This was just black mud with stumps. It looked ugly, but of course it was always going to look that way. But how it looks now is incredible, and I've walked in there,
Yeah.
and that's what's 12-foot poplar trees. A lot of them natural. there are fish in the river. It's kind of hard to show you guys if there's fish in the river right now. But you said there would be, from the other day, you said that we had brown trout, and we have brook trout,
Sculpin, which are
some sculpin.
forage fish, native cold water forage fish that don't have a swim bladder, so they can hang out on the bottoms. They can hang out on the bottoms of fast-moving streams, and they're not buoyant, so they're less apt to be picked up and carried away. And the native salmonid in this river was thought to be the grayling. It's the Michigan grayling, which went extinct in Michigan sometime around 1931. And that was in the UP. But a lot of these streams around here were populated by grayling primarily, maybe some brook trout. There's really no way to know now. But the grayling went away because the conditions were just too brutal. And there's an effort now by another tribe, the Little River Band of Ottawa, out of Manistee. They're working with the Michigan DNR on a grayling reintroduction project, which will occur in a river proximal to the Boardman, maybe 30 or 40 miles away. So,
Cool.
they're using genetics from Montana, which actually is the closest you can get, because during the last glaciation there was a hydraulic connection between Montana and Michigan, which allowed grayling to migrate from Montana into Michigan, and then they became isolated in this spot. So I'm going to back us up and show you something.
Yeah, we're gonna go on over to the bank. I'm kind of excited to see what I'm about to see.
I was just going to show them something over here.
So what?
Something to get on camera. Okay.
Alright. Got out the boat without falling out. That's pretty...
So that's the lifeblood of a lot of our rivers.
So what are we looking at here?
That's a spring, and that's coming out year-round at a constant temperature, probably in the low to mid 40s. If you stick your hand in there, it'll feel real cold.
Oh, frog. Oh, wow. Yeah, it sure is.
So it's totally potable water. You could drink that if you're in a pinch, or even if you weren't in a pinch. It tastes pretty good. That's what supplies the rivers like the Ottaway with clear, cold water.
So there's hundreds of these kind of along the banks?
Correct. Sometimes you can't see them like this. Sometimes they just seep out of the ground, and you'll never see anything like that. But occasionally you'll get an opportunity where you find this bubbling spring like that.
So while we're stood here, where we're actually stood, this would have been the impoundment. So what we're looking at is we look at these stumps. We got a stump right by us? Yeah, as we look at all these stumps, so 4.5 years ago this would have been just the black mud that we see at the bottom.
Black mud, yep.
Pretty incredible. I am actually going to have a drink of that water. Or try to, without falling in. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, it's good. You should have some. It's better than the tap water that's coming out in Traverse Sea. It's like, should I drink some of this water that's naturally coming out of the ground, or do I want some that's come through these pipes that have been here for years?
Chlorine and fluoride.
That's pretty good, huh? You should fill your bottle up with it. We'll be taking a short break, Nate.
Oh, roger that.
Someone asked, what's the point to this today? The point of this is to be able to look at the Relic channel, which is the original channel of the Ottaway River here, and show off some of the work that's been done by the Grand Traverse Band in association with many other different stakeholders, including the Army Corps of Engineers, including the Department of Natural Resources, Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, the Wildlife and Fishery, the Conservation Resources Alliance, and others that I'm obviously not going to remember off the top of my head. Removing the removal of these dams so that the river can go back to a complete ecosystem and flow. And this is our chariot. Can you put the oar the other way, babe?
Huh?
Not. You want me to get in?
Yep. Got it?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm not going to fall out. I'm just trying to avoid too much. And we're off back down the river. If you look closely, you'll see there's a lot of dragonflies here. Yeah, that fresh water was very nice to see bubbling up. For those of you that didn't hear the explanation, one of the reasons that this is such a important ecosystem and quite unusual is it's a cold water river, and the reason it stays a cold water river is due to those natural springs that bubble up constantly year round at about 40 degrees, which means that you can float this river throughout the year. So hopefully I'm going to come down this in the winter when it's about -5 out, all wrapped up, and be able to show the different landscape. those of you that are just joining, this is the Ottoway River. It's currently known as the Boardman, but in the future it will be called the Ottaway. The Boardman being the colonised name, named after Captain Boardman, who was a huge part of the logging industry that totally devastated all of the forestry around here. And this is the Relic channel that has been re-scoured out since 2012, after the removal of the Brown Bridge Dam, which was phase one of a 4-phase project. The final phase, which is going to be a fish passage, which is going to be able to sort the different types of fish that are able to get up and down the river, as regarding being able to control invasive species into the system.
How you doing? Good, how you doing? Good.
And you can always go back to the beginning of this. There's a ton of information about the river and the project. You can see on the side here there's some of the trees that have been planted. About 18,000 trees have been planted, but the majority of what you see here is just natural. This is just the seed bank repopulating itself.
Straight ahead of us, Kevin, is the dam, the actual dam.
So then what we're looking at in the distance there, this is actually the original earthen burn of the dam. So this gives you a bit of an appreciation of how wide this body of water would be. Show you. If you look at the far right of my screen, that grassy hill that runs all the way to the trees and then runs all the way across the front here and keeps going. This is where the original dam was. Are they just going to leave that, didn't they?
Yeah, we talked about taking it out, but we did some research on it and we couldn't really find any ecological benefits to removing it. And the cost to truck that much material off-site would have been $8 million.
Wow.
And that would have definitely been a project buster. So
Right.
once it hairs over with some trees and some more veg, I think the average person's not even gonna recognize what it was.
So do you know how long or how wide this impoundment was? Sorry.
The dam was approximately 2,300 feet in length.
2,300 foot length
Yeah.
of dam. Wow.
So the pond was probably a bit wider than that in places
Mhm.
because it spread out. The water spread out a bit, but it was approximately 200 acres, 190 some. And its maximum depth, I believe, was in the low 40s.
40 feet of water. And now this is what, 2.5 feet deep to 8 feet? What's the maximum depth of the Ottaway?
River?
Yeah.
You might get a hole in this section that's 4 or 5 feet deep. The majority is, I'm gonna say, 2 to 3 feet.
Yeah, you can see the bottom.
So this is actually where we're going, is the actual location of the powerhouse. So we would be paddling into the intakes at the powerhouse right now.
So this was the piece they removed. If you look here, that's one side, and then you've got the other side here. So the powerhouse would have gone through here.
Fortunately, this is where the Relic channel historically ran, so we didn't have to do a bunch of engineering to get it to go through the berm elsewhere.
And because that wasn't changed. Once you got the other side of the dam, it was only changed on the far side.
Correct.
Until you get down to the next one, which is the Boardman, which we're going to go and take a look at in a little bit, and show you the siphon work that's going on there as they're looking to remove that dam, which will be gone within the next month. They're gradually taking the water down, and once the water's down, the river will be returned to its original channel down there. We'll go and take a look at that a little bit later on. But this, my friends, is where the tour ends. We're just coming into land, so we're being brought into shore. And thanks everyone for joining. Go ahead and make sure you follow this. There's going to be a lot more live streams coming regarding this, regarding the Boardman route, the Ottaway, and the Grand Traverse Band. And we'll continue doing a lot of work. And thanks for being here. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.
Actually, that's something you can leave in.
Nate, thank you so much. Appreciated it. There's Frank working hard as usual.
It's a lot easier to drag it than carry
You
it.
got me?
Yep, you bet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's Frank.
Next.
Thank you. I'm older than
Got it?
I look.
Oh.
See you later, guys. Take care. Bye bye.